You know what bugs me?
What?
When the president is being held hostage in the Iron Patriot suit, the suit is completely useless. But when Rhodey puts it on, it suddenly works completely fine.
That's what bothers you?
Yeah, that bugs me.
Well, you know what bugs me? How you got all the way back to Gotham City after climbing out of that prison on the other side of the planet. Why don't you explain that?
Why do so many people have a problem with this? I said, it's because I'm Batman.
Can we get back to the story, please?
Fine.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 21 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for May 27th, 2016. I'm your podcast host, Josh Kiser, and joining me today, Mr. Josh Haddix.
The podcast is now legally able to drink.
And Mr. Kyle Hoagland.
That's all I had to do, damn it. What's going on, everybody?
So can I tell you guys a story here?
No.
Well, I'm going to anyways. So, I went to the doctor today, right?
Uh-oh.
And, I'm not one to go to the doctor. Okay, so I just don't. Like, usually I just let things heal or let it be. Like, unless I, like, absolutely, like, feel like I'm gonna die, I go to the doctor. I think I can count on one hand the number of times I've gone to the doctor in the last 20 years. And so when I moved out here 3 years ago, I picked this one doctor, and when I was having like real bad, like, I thought it was something with my like back or leg or something like that. So I went to this guy. Yeah. So, I haven't been back since. Well, I've had this issue lately where I feel like my tonsils have been swollen, and it's been like 2 months now. And finally I'm like, I'm just gonna make an appointment and go. So I go to this doctor, and it's like the first, I don't even know if I actually talked to my doctor last time I was there. I think I was helped by like the nurse practitioner. So this might have been the first time I really dealt with the guy. So I get in there, and, we sit down, he comes in and he looks at the file and he's like, I haven't seen you in about 3 years or something. I'm like, yeah, I don't come here much. And then he's like, so, tell me what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, my tonsils have been swollen. I was like, I feel like I have a little bit of trouble, like, breathing at times. I was like, there's no pain. I don't know if it's, like, allergies or allergic reaction to my girlfriend's dog. Like, I was like, there's a couple things going on here. And I was like, and I've had, like, real bad heartburn. And he's like, how long has this been going on? I'm like, about 2 months. And he's like, oh, I'm glad you rushed your way in here. and I'm like, yeah. And then, so the first thing so mind you, like, I've really not dealt much with this guy. And the first thing I say is like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm allergic to the dog. He sleeps in the bed. And he's like, he sleeps in the bed. And I go, yeah. He goes, man, the things we'll do to get laid, huh?
Jeez, this guy.
And I'm like, yeah. So we're like laughing back and forth, whatever. Well, then he starts telling me, he's like, yeah, it sounds like you've got like acid reflux, and maybe there's an allergy thing. He's like, I think I'm going to put you on this and this. We're going to kind of try to combat them both. And then once you start feeling better, we'll take one off and sort of try to narrow it down, what the problem is. He goes, but I'm pretty sure it's this or this. And he goes, now that all said, mind you, he goes like 10 minutes into all that. And he's like, now all that said, he's like, I'm still going to like, diagnose you and look at you. He's like, just based on our conversation though, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I was like, okay. He's like, he's like, I'm going to knock strep off and this and that. He's like, because it's been going on for 2 months. The timeline doesn't make sense, whatever. I'm like, okay. So then he's like, oh, hop up here. And then, so I hop up on the table or whatever. And you do the whole, like, open your mouth, say ah thing. I open my mouth and he, like, puts his flashlight on and he goes, holy shit. And I go, what? And he's like, those tonsils are fucking huge. And I'm like, what? And he's like
full-blown AIDS.
And he's like, those things are like kissing each other. He's like, I gotta get you to like an ear, nose, and throat doctor like immediately to find out what's going on over there. Throw everything I told you out the window because that's not the problem. So
Do
then,
you have tonsillitis?
So I don't know. So then he comes back in and we're talking for a minute. He's like, so like, do you ever have trouble? Like, are you snoring or like make noise? And I'm like, oh yeah, my girlfriend mentioned that I like, kind of snore and stuff. And he's like, Yeah, it's called lack of fucking oxygen because you have no room to breathe in there.
Did he say that? Did he
Dude,
drop an F-bomb?
swear to God, the F-bombs and everything.
Wow.
I was like literally verbatim, our conversation. But I'm like, God.
It's probably in his doctor books. There's probably a lot of F-bombs in there, so.
Right. Well, now I'm like, I kind of wish I went to this doctor more often because, like, we're just having a good time bullshitting with each other.
Well, damn, I hope you're all right.
Yeah, well, we'll find out soon enough, I guess. But, I mean, I'm not in any pain other than I just can't breathe all the time, so.
I think what we've really learned here is that, past 2 months, you've been kind of going through some things. How long have you been kind of seeing Lauren? I feel like
it's been about 2 months, so.
About 2 months. So, I mean, there's no correlation, so I guess we'll just scratch her off.
We'll just move right. Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows, man? It's a mystery.
You know what's funny about this? And we can't delve into it because we don't want to waste too much time. But I was gonna pose a question to you guys today about how many layers of toilet paper you put on the toilet in public when you're taking a shit. But we can't get into that now.
Well, we got like two. For what it's worth, we could go there for a second.
It was I went to the gym earlier this morning, and I don't care to use the bathroom number 2 in public. I mean, if I have to go, I'll go, but if I can avoid it, or if I'm gonna be home soon enough, like I'll wait.
Right.
But I had to, I was gonna work out, so I was like, well, I can't like be holding in poop the whole time I'm gonna work out. And so when I was patting the toilet seat, no joke, I go, I know Kiser poops in public. I was like, I wonder how much padding he puts on toilets when he uses the bathroom in public.
It's funny you say that because I was going to say, yeah, with all my traveling and stuff, I have to poop in public like a lot. Airports all the time.
That and I know that you're not a huge, again, not that I care, but I know you really don't care about that. Like you're like, I don't give a shit. I'll fucking poop,
right. Oh, absolutely. I will poop in most places.
So I was like,
I got a little poop fright. I'll be honest. I got a little bit of that.
And I think I have a little bit too. Like I said, if I can hold it or something, I will. But if the circumstance arises, but I was like, God, I wonder if Kiser like just is so used to it, he just sits on the toilet, doesn't care.
No, so
tri-layer.
I don't. I take the roll and I fold it in half. So basically, I have 2 layers of whatever toilet paper that particular airport. Public restroom, grocery store, exactly wherever it is, and fold it in there. I don't use they have those like pre-done sheets you can lay down. I don't even mess with those things.
Dude, those are the worst.
But I just fold a piece of toilet paper over and call it a day. If for some reason I walk in and the toilet's real scuzzy, but I have to go real bad, I'll like double that and do sort of like
do you ever, like, if it's real clean, do you ever not use anything?
Not in public. I always fold. But the funny thing is like at my office, I always just sit down and poop. Even though like there's a lot of people that use that toilet.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
That's probably a comfort thing, but
right.
Anyway.
That said, coming up to today's podcast,
today's shitty podcast,
we're going to give you guys all a couple of our opinions, much like we've been doing, but this time on just different lists within the Marvel universe as we sort of wrap things up here in our month of Marvel. And we'll talk everything from plot holes to the TV universe to the actors that make up said universe.
Hey, plot holes not to be confused with poop holes, which we were just talking about.
Correct, right.
Man, how are we gonna follow this up with our actual podcast? I mean, this is riveting stuff,
guys. This is gold. This is podcast gold.
Right? It really is. On Twitter and Facebook, please leave us comments. Let us know if you'd rather just have us just do like a whole hour of just the logistics of shitting in public. If you want to, we'll do it. We are not above. We're not above that line.
That's true. I mean, let's be honest. It might be more interesting than anything else that we've put out. So.
Absolutely. I mean, our mothers might not exactly enjoy it, but then again, they don't listen to this, so
that's true. But let's get going into things here. I'm gonna open things up. My conversation is one that we haven't talked about very little in this the TV universe in Marvel, and the reason I kind of want to do this is because it is loosely tied into the movies, the movie universe. The ABC shows are more directly tied into the movie universe, where the Netflix shows are like much more loose. But they're all set in that same universe still, and there's little Easter eggs and shout-outs and things like that to the movies. And when we were talking about our list, one thing, Hoagie, you mentioned is you have not seen any of the television shows. And so I thought it would be good because I have a feeling like a lot of our PMPers out there probably have not seen the shows either. And I think they're fantastic, and I really wanted to give my top 3 reasons why to watch the Marvel television universe. And this is not really
I've seen Agent Carter. That's the only one I've really seen. That I think Netflix is talking about picking that up, but
well, it got as I say, it's been canceled, but yeah, we'll see where that goes from there. And that's the only one I haven't seen, so I can't speak on Agent Carter, but I'm going to speak on the rest of them. And really what sticks out for me is going to be my first point, and that's the villains in these shows. Unlike the movies, which you really have 2.5 hours to sort of lay the foundation for a villain, and what we've talked about recently was Marvel's dropped the ball on the movie villains for the most part. They do the complete opposite in the television shows. They really give a backstory for these villains. They make you feel compassionate for them. They make you feel understanding. But at the same time, Kingpin sticks out in my mind. His backstory is great. And in general, he's a very menacing villain. And he's played by a great actor. That's another thing. There's very good acting in the television shows. And I really can appreciate the motives and things like that driving behind the villains. And they become very entertaining, and they're not trying to destroy the world per se. They don't have this over global takeover, like, they're trying to rule their city, or they're just trying to they just like power in their own minds, in their own little world environment. It's not this global takeover. Maybe in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. it gets a little more global, but the Netflix shows especially don't get that way. And Haddix, I think you've seen Daredevil. I mean, how do you feel about Kingpin?
Dude, I feel like Kingpin is a tough character to cast because in the comics, he's kind of this real huge guy. And he's, kind of towers over everyone, like he bear hugs people to death, shit like that. And the guy that they casted, I don't know his name off the top of my head.
It's like Vincent D'Onofrio's something that he was in,
he was in Jurassic World.
Well, he was in Jurassic World, but then he was in that, what's that war movie back in the day where they I can't think of what it's called. The one with the drill sergeant and all that, where he's yelling at nobody. Okay. It's a famous
Full Metal
movie.
Jacket?
Full Metal Jacket, there we go. Thank you.
But anyway, he's, like you alluded to, great actor, plays the role perfectly. Definitely has that you feel bad for him at times, and then
you can almost understand where he comes from, right?
Yeah, and they spent a lot of time developing that character. As a matter of fact, have they even called him Kingpin yet in the show? I can't remember.
You haven't got to season 2 yet.
I have. Did they call him Kingpin?
They do call him Kingpin in season 2.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, so they spend a long time developing this guy, and it definitely draws you in more when they do that.
And he's like almost a scary dude. Like I think he's the best villain in the universe right now. I'd take him over Thanos at the moment for the best.
Dude, he's like scary in a very calm way.
Right.
Like
he's scary in a real way almost. Like it's a very, and like Jessica Jones, the villain in that one, Kilgrave, he can control minds, so they attack the idea. It's a very gritty on the Netflix. It's rated R, so there's a lot more darkness, and they could go further. So like in the mind control, he basically is like raping these girls because he can control them to do whatever he wants. So they attack a lot of that stuff, and they're able to tell, which kind of goes into my next reason why is that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. having 22, 24 episodes in a season, and Netflix having like 13, and they're all 40 minutes to an hour long. They're able to develop overall stories, and it becomes a long movie. So you're able to get more of the backstory on these villains. You're able to get more of the backstory on these characters, and really, it builds. Season by season, you're building for this like one overlying story, and eventually the plan, I think, for Netflix is to almost do their mini Avengers with the Defenders and get Luke Cage and get Punisher and get Daredevil and Elektra, whoever they want to put into these all together into their own like television series, a version of the Avengers, and it almost could build into its own better version because they can develop everybody more. And they can take them into different routes. They go, like I said, they could go darker. I mean, some of the stuff, these villains and stuff are doing, it's gruesome. Like, they're brutal scenes.
The TV shows, I feel like the TV shows are more able to be like the comics because, like comics, you have a longer period of time. I feel like that's the disconnect between the Marvel movies and the comics is they don't have enough time to tell an elaborate story.
Right.
Whereas a TV show, not that the TV shows are exactly identical to the comics either, but they have a longer time to build that story up so that when the finale hits, it's so much bigger. Like, oh shit! Like I spent 13 episodes waiting for that. 13 hours waiting for that instead of 2 hours waiting for that.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of build up, and it's very good. And so, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I kind of. When I keep talking about these shows, I keep talking about the Netflix shows, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in its own right has been a very good show. It starts slow, so people who, if you go and turn on and start watching it from the beginning, I think it's on Netflix to watch. The first season is kind of really a slow start to get through, and it's not until it about ties in with Winter Soldier, because right about whenever one of those new Marvel movies comes out, they kind of have like an episode or like at least a moment or something that tie into the movies. Once it hits into Winter Soldier, and they kind of, that's when they sort of disband S.H.I.E.L.D. at that point in the movies. That's when things kind of start taking off and they start doing their own thing and kind of, they were setting up for an Inhumans movie in many ways, and then maybe that'll still happen. But there's more tie into the movies there, but at the same time, they're able to do some of these storylines that the movies won't ever touch, that they can do a whole story arc over a season long on, and bring in some of these lesser known characters. And this is both Netflix and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point. They could bring some of these characters in that aren't mainstream people, that aren't really worth their own movie or aren't really, an ideal fit for a standalone movie. They could put them into a TV show, and maybe they're in for a season. Maybe they become reoccurring characters, whatever it might be. And it really allows a lot of freedom in that regard to bring some of that stuff up, which is fun. And the last point for me, and this one, while Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has their action scenes and they're pretty good at times. Of course the CG and stuff is a little lacking because they don't have the budget that, these Disney Marvel movies get. The action sequences for the Netflix shows, especially Daredevil, are some of the most brutal, but some of the most intense and exciting action scenes I've ever seen. I mean, I'm thinking of that scene in season 2 of Daredevil where they're fighting down, basically like a staircase. You sort of saw like a hint if you watched Civil War, where Bucky and Captain America are trying to escape from the SWAT team or something. It's similar to that, but on a much bigger and better scale. And there's other scenes like that. It's just, they're very, very well done action scenes, and it makes it feel real to me. Like when you're seeing it, it's gritty and dark, like to your point, Haddix, the comic books, but it still feels very real. Yeah, sort of like the Dark Knight movies, but even on a different scale than that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, if you will, when you said it makes it seem real. I mean, it's not real, but something about the brutality of the fights makes it seem like that's what would really happen. Like there's times where he knocks a guy out into it because of how hard he hit him or what he hit him with. It's not like the movies where, they almost try to make it look like a
cartoony almost.
Yeah. It's, it's real. Like he's also getting his ass kicked. You know what I mean? Like it's not just one way, like, because he's a superhero, so he's beating everyone's ass. Like, he gets his ass kicked, he's got cuts all over him, he's bleeding everywhere. Like, it's very, very real. When Fisk slammed that dude's head in the car in season 1.
Oh, God, that's and
Like there was like brains and stuff everywhere.
And he kept slamming it like over and over and over. I mean, it's just very intense, and that sort of sets the tone for how imposing Fisk is, as well as just exactly what you're going to expect out of those shows. And again, I'm not trying to downplay Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's on an ABC network, and they've gone 3 seasons. This last season's been by far their best season, and I'm looking forward to the next one. And it's Joss Whedon was sort of behind at the beginning. I think now he's like a, I don't know, producer or something like that. He doesn't have as much, but I think his brother has a lot of say in the writing and things like that. And it's sort of like Buffy and Angel. It starts out slow, but then by season 2, season 3, it starts to build, and the characters in it, you just start to feel for the characters and their interactions with each other, and it's very good in its own right. So really, if you love the Marvel movies, you'll enjoy Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you like the Marvel movies but wish they felt a little more like the Nolan Dark Knight movies, check out the Netflix shows, especially start with Daredevil season 1. Go from there. The acting's phenomenal. The story's great. It's really worth your time. And Hoagie, when we're done recording tonight, I recommend you go turn it on.
You don't tell me what to do.
I was muted for that, by the way, when I sneezed. All right, guys.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm professional over here.
Yeah, you still had to tell us that you sneezed.
I know, yeah.
Well, I was trying to explain why Haddix was just laughing for no reason.
I mean, I just laugh, dude. I laugh at life.
That's true.
He is Mr. Giggles.
But that said, that's all I got to say right now about the movies, and we'll kind of go over to Hoagie now. And Hoagie, you can talk about what your list is about back in the movie universe.
Yeah, because the TV universe. But yeah, my top 3 is so far with all the movies put together. Maybe a couple that may not have hit the mark, but overall, compared to anything DC is doing or anything that recently before then that Marvel was doing, this has been probably some of the most enjoyable experiences as far as going to see a movie for me. I'm usually not the kind of person that goes and sees a lot of these movies, to be completely honest.
Are you talking comic book movies or just movies in general?
I mean, most of the comic movies. Like I have not seen any of the new X-Men, which I feel like I owe myself to at least see. Was it Nuke or First Class and Days of Future Past? I've not seen
First Class, definitely. After that, it starts to be like, yeah, it's okay.
But I mean, like I saw the first Spider-Man, didn't see the second one with Jamie Foxx as God knows whatever the hell he is, and but it really started. I think the first one that I saw in film when I actually went to go pay for it was the first Captain America, and then I went back and saw the first Iron Man and such. But after that, I've been kind of hooked with these movies. So my list is going to be the top 3 things so far that Marvel is doing right with the cinematic universe. The first thing, and I don't think there's going to be much disagreement here. I think the casting for practically every role they've knocked it out of the park. Now obviously there are some movies where, like maybe the execution of someone like the Mandarin that maybe we weren't a huge fan of. I don't think I don't think that's the actor's fault. I don't think that's the cast's fault.
Yeah, that's not acting. That's script.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
So, but I mean, when you look at, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, was whether or not somebody can be considered iconic in their roles. And I can safely say that there probably is a couple here where I think that particular actor really resonates with the character they're playing. And the obvious one of that is Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. I think it's going to be a long time before anybody wants to try and catch lightning in a bottle again with Iron Man because of how well Tony Stark was portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. And we don't know yet how many more movies he has. He might have Spider-Man, the reunion, and then maybe the Infinity Wars, maybe just the first one. But it is going to be sad when this is all done because overall, just everybody on the show or everyone in the movies has really taken their role seriously. And that either is a tribute to how good they are as actors, or is just how much they actually were excited to be who they are. I mean, even Chris Evans, I think, plays he gets about as much screen time and impactful memories as far as like things that we remember in the movies, almost as much as Iron Man does. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. has his own, I guess, charm that kind of trumps Chris Evans, but Captain America has been just as, emotional and, gripping of a trilogy at this point as the 3 Iron Man movies. If anything,
I mean, you could argue that it's the best of the trilogies at the moment.
Yeah, as far as the actual production and the storyline and everything, Captain America I think kills Iron Man.
No, dude, I don't know if you saw Civil War. He didn't kill him. He's still alive.
This guy over here.
I think I agree with you that the overall casting is. I think Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. are like in a tier of their own, though. I think those two.
You don't think Hemsworth is Thor?
I think it's Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Thor slightly behind, and I think those 3 are ahead of the rest.
Oh yeah, by and far. And I don't know if I would say anybody else is even deserving of the idea that nobody else could ever replay or refill that role that that actor's
I agree
playing.
with that too. And you mentioned before that the villains are a lot better, you think, in the TV verse because they have so much more time to build it and give us a real reason.
Correct.
Where it's just these other movies, it's 2.5 hours, and a lot of times that villain is completely vanquished. It's not like he gets away and we'll see him next time. Usually there's some sort of ending to it. With that said, though, with the weakness of it, I still have to give at least a little bit of credit to Tom Hiddleston and Jeff Bridges for their Hiddleston's Loki and Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane. I do believe that.
And by the way, Obadiah is a fantastic name.
Right, I agree, and I think that he was a big reason why Iron Man 1 was as successful as it was, because he was kind of that menacing, real character that it's once again you have almost kind of have a compassion for, but you also want to see him be defeated. Because I don't think he really thinks he's evil. I think he feels like this is what his calling is supposed to be. To take the Stark Industries or Stark Enterprises, whatever it's called, and take over for it. So, and Jeff Bridges just did a fantastic job with that role, as does Tom Hiddleston as Loki, because now this is 2 movies where Loki is kind of in the main, kind of in the forefront of being the villain. So you at least got a little bit more time. And he's also been in the other Thor movie. So, I mean,
right.
Not really so much as an antagonist. So it's, I guess what I'm saying is, of the other villains, they're forgettable at best. They're poorly scripted at worst. Whereas I feel like, when they were building the, I guess the origin story of Thor and Iron Man, I think they did start off right with an actual, rememberable villain.
Agreed.
I agree. Yeah.
And then the only thing I'll add on the casting here is, as far as the minor roles, Elizabeth Olsen is really growing on me. And I do feel like she's slowly going to take over as far as being the most popular of the female characters.
She's slowly growing on me as my favorite Olsen.
That's a lot for you to say. Well, then again, she is the youngest of the 3. So that does stay consistent with.
And that Russian accent is pretty sexy.
I think to your defense on the casting, even though you might not be able to group them all in the iconic category, I do like all the casting that they've done.
Right.
And I do.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that I was like, man, I wish this person wasn't in it. But then but at the same time, I don't say like Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. To me, it's been fine, but I never sit there thinking
yeah.
Oh, nobody else could ever play Hawkeye. If Matt Damon was playing Hawkeye, I'd probably have the same response right now about Matt Damon's fine as Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hawkeye kind of gets, he's always gotten the shaft as far as, his time on TV, because he's definitely one of the most minor characters.
He actually uses a bow and arrow, not a shaft.
Dude, I was going to say that too.
I'm moving on. All right, so my second point is that I'm thinking they're doing a great job with is that they are including the right heroes into the universe. Obviously, there are plenty of other ones. You hit on it, like Daredevil and I want to say
Punisher,
but Jessica Jones and Punisher. there's a lot of guys they could keep adding, and who knows, they might add them. I don't know if they would ever introduce them. I don't see the reason why they would, but I feel like Civil War, that's one of the reasons why I really like Civil War. It's almost like get out of the way a lot of storyline with some of the, introducing some of the newer characters, or the ones that maybe had small appearances or already had kind of like their first little origin story, like Ant-Man. I think it really gave them the opportunity to really reintroduce them again and make them relevant. And Spider-Man, for as minor of a role he did, I think we all agree that he kind of stole the show in that movie for as little, actual exposure he actually had. And
it was him or Aunt May.
How excited we are to see his actual full-length movie. But
I agree.
And then you got like Black Panther, and then upcoming we have Wasp, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel. I feel like with all those guys coming up, I really hope they don't add more, because you don't want to over dilute the story with too many characters when you already are in the middle of a really, really big payoff, which is supposed to be the coming of Thanos. So if the more people you add, Marvel has to kind of sit down and tell us, or kind of like talk themselves into, do we have time to really make this character important to the eyes of the audience? And if the answer is no, then put them, all right, we'll have a Netflix show about it, or ABC will take care of it and then cancel it after an episode, or cancel it after a season.
I think, I don't know this at all. I mean, I think there's speculation on the internet, and Ryan kind of alluded to it a couple weeks ago, but I feel like their introduction of these new characters along the way is to replace the Iron Mans and the Captain Americas.
Right, when they're slowly trying to move on to the next generation of these movies and characters.
I feel like if we ever get to an Avengers 6, there won't be any Avengers in it that are in Avengers 2. You know what I mean? Like those contracts will be up. Those actors or actresses will be a little older. So maybe that's their idea, is we'll slowly introduce these characters, sign them on for 6-movie contracts. When one's expiring, we have a new character coming in, type of deal.
And most actors don't want to be, like the Dustin Diamond, and I know that's a TV thing about Screech, but as much as someone might enjoy being a character, they don't want that to be they don't want to be known as one person. Like a real actor just wants to do well in any role they play, but they don't want to be pigeonholed into like, okay, I am this guy forever type of thing. So that I do understand as well.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Renner's really worried about being Hawkeye in all of his, future movies.
I didn't even think he was going to be first. I didn't think he was going to be in Civil War, and then obviously I saw the posters and stuff. I'm like, when is he? Last I saw he was retired. Like, where is he going to come out of nowhere? And really, he literally came out of nowhere. He was like,
he's now the Brett Favre of the Avengers.
Seriously. So the final point I'm going to make here is, when I was mentioning all the characters and how important it was to introduce them, because the Avengers in their current form by themselves, I don't think would have the ability to take on this coming villain, which is Thanos. And this whole universe has kind of been riddled with, once again, the maybe not the best.
Riddler is in the DC universe, dude.
Nice. I like that one. Poor Hoagie.
I never cut you guys off.
That's because we don't leave ourselves set up in such a unique way like you do.
This is true. I know. That's on me. But Thanos being a Titan, you can't just throw like four
He plays on Tennessee.
Oh, God.
That's a stretch. All right.
That's Marcus Mariota, dude. We're talking about Thanos here.
We are talking about Thanos. But I like the way that they are setting up Thanos. Even though we've hardly seen him. And there's a almost like a level of just a...
He's like the John Cena of the Marvel Universe.
He's just like a premonition. Oh, yeah, you can't see him. That's correct.
Right. Right.
I got that one.
I say, Hoagie, you rolled with that one. I like
Yeah, you did. I'm sorry.
You have this all-powerful foe that we know is coming. We know that for people who know who Thanos is and what he's capable of doing, it's not looking good. Even in the current state of the Avengers, we know he's capable of probably killing all of them. And because he hasn't done anything yet, and we've known about this guy since, really the first Avengers movie, if not even before that. And there's just like almost like an eerie, kind of an omen feeling about an ultimate bad guy that so far hasn't done anything. And I really, really hope and I have faith that Marvel's not going to screw this up. So if they don't, this will be one of the biggest payoffs of the whole universe, is going to be Thanos. So I have him on my list because I think when everything's said and done, I think Thanos is going to be very, very much remembered in this universe as being one of the greatest evil, villains of any movie.
All right.
And I don't know if you guys feel the same way, if you guys have your doubts or just worried about how they might execute him.
I agree.
And by execute him, I don't mean kill him.
Well, you beat me to that one.
I agree. And going back to our Star Wars podcast, which you haven't listened to, go download. When we talk about the Death Star, Star Killer base, whatever the hell, we were talking about the importance of having that like all-encompassing menace. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can have one bad guy, but you need something that threatens the whole world or threatens multiple worlds, and that's what Thanos is. And I
right,
agree
he's a real reason. He's a real reason to be fearful.
Yeah,
even though he hasn't done anything that we know of. He obviously is setting things in motion, but we've seen enough of him. We've seen enough of the the end credit scenes and a little bit from Guardians of the Galaxy that we know that he's a tough motherfucker, and something needs to be done about it. But the funny thing too is that the Avengers don't even know.
So that's what I was gonna bring up. That point is, you keep saying like we know about his incoming. We as viewers do, but very little other. Some of the cosmic people might know about, but like he's much an unknown right now. They don't realize this imposing villain is knocking on their doorstep slowly.
Do you think that Loki didn't tell something to Thor about who he was working for? Like maybe Thor has some idea of what to be ready for when Ragnarok comes out, that he has at least some semblance of an idea that there's a big guy that's coming soon.
It wouldn't shock me if in Ragnarok they have some type of discussion about it, and Loki plays like his mind games about you don't know what's coming thinking. Or something like that. You know what I mean? Right.
Oh, and before I hand this off to Haddix, I did watch the end credit and also the throne room. It is a different gauntlet.
So that is a perfect segue because I'm going to throw that in mine.
Look at you guys setting each other up with segues. Like you've learned well from me. I'm a proud parent to you guys.
Hoagie's bumping, and I'm going to spike it.
I'm going to bounce past this over to Haddix.
So going into my three, also playing off of Hoagie's, 3 things that Marvel's done right. I'm gonna go ahead and give 3 things that they've done wrong, and it's in no order, and it's not like the top 3 things they've done wrong or whatever. But it's 3 things that, while scouring the internet, a lot of people have talked about. Some people like, some people don't care about it. But here we go. The first one, which Hoagie mentioned with the glove, is a lot of plot holes. And I think it's something that you're going to have when you have so many movies that tie into each other. Like, you're just going to get something, you're going to miss something, or something's just not going to make sense later on. So I think a lot of people kind of just shrug it off like, you know what, okay, I'll accept that. It's
because
fine.
Zack Snyder didn't direct it, it's okay.
Exactly, yeah, exactly why. Which, that's another topic. But for instance, I think that they had the one glove, the Infinity Gauntlet in Odin's trophy room, and I think they did it as kind of just like a little shout out. And
an Easter egg, yeah,
an Easter egg. And I think once they kind of started developing these movies, they realized we don't want to spend time figuring out a way to tell these people how he got that gauntlet out of there. So let's just fucking make 2. And Hoagie is right. They are left and right handed. So it's a pair of gauntlets, but there's only one in the comics. So unless they come out later with some reasoning of why there's 2, or make up 5 more stones to go in the other glove, I think it was a way of going back and kind of being like, oh fuck, we'll just say there's 2, you know what I mean? But But I mean, there's things as subtle as that, which I think a lot of people are okay with that. Like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, it's minor at this point.
But I think there's some that are kind of more out there. I mean, for instance, the main part of the ending of Thor was him destroying the Bifrost. It was his way of getting back to, you know, this woman that he loved on Earth or saving a whole world, and he chose to save the world. So it was like this big, you know, sadness or whatever. He destroyed the Bifrost, can't get back
With
to
great
Earth.
power comes great responsibility.
Exactly, dude. That's what they said, man. That's what they said in Spider-Man. And
It echoes true even to this day.
amen, brother. You wake up with powers one day, you know?
Thanks, Uncle Ben.
Life happens.
Life happens, you know? You wake up with powers. But, and then in Avengers rolls around, and Thor just, like, flies in and starts battling with Captain America and Iron Man. And again, not a huge deal, but you're like, wait a minute. We just spent a whole movie,
You know,
a whole ending of a movie, like, talking about how he couldn't get back to Earth.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't think it should be just brushed off as like, oh, no
I
big
agree.
deal. Like, it is, that's kind of a big deal, because it's sort of, it almost completely takes away from the Thor movie. Like, it sort of
Yeah.
diminishes and minimizes that ending.
And the Thor movies, I mean, I think we can all agree that Thor movies are kind of, if we were to say which ones are probably the least successful, I would probably say they're probably the Thor movies. So that's kind of sucks that something like that gets taken away, like an actual real, I guess, sentimental moment.
Yeah,
and now it's like, oh, let's just forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and there's a lot of little things. Like, I don't think there's anything that's been huge. I don't think there's any huge plot holes in the movies, but there's a lot of little things like that you could look up and find. So I think that's one thing. And again, it might just be the fallout of having so many movies that tie into each other. You know, you can't get everything right. So
Yeah, I think they're given some leeway because of how well they've sort of handled everything, so that they're excused on these little things where I'm honestly, if these were DC right now doing these kind of things, people would be up in arms about it. And
God.
it's so
Especially the start.
It's unfair.
If you're starting off with these weird plot holes, I said the only one I got really confused about, and I wish they would have explained it more, and I think you had it on this list, Haddix, was, you know, after years of having, you know, the arc reactor in his chest, and then all of a sudden it's like, I just got surgery done. Like,
yeah.
couldn't you? What changed that you couldn't get that surgery the moment you got home?
Oh, you know what the other one, I think I have it on here and I read, and it's on that, it's also in Iron Man 3. And I didn't even realize this watching the movie. I didn't realize this until I was reading this article this guy wrote. But Iron Man 3, he spends the majority of the movie trying to recharge his suit back up so he could get home or whatever. And I mean, that's basically the gist of the whole movie, you know, charging this thing on a battery or whatever in that kid's garage and shit. And then at the end of the movie, he calls in like his arsenal of extra suits. Like, why couldn't he have called one of those extra suits like earlier in the movie? Like, it doesn't, it's just like things like that you're just like, okay, whatever.
Right,
you know?
yeah.
Is he partial to that particular suit of armor?
And
maybe?
that might have been it. But I mean, if he was able to get home, he could have just taken that suit home and like charged it there. But like, he spent the whole movie charging this suit so he could go back home. Like, it was just a weird, again, nothing major, but afterwards,
Major
like,
butt.
you know, yeah, major butts. Anyway, I digress from that point. The second point I wanted to bring up was how much comedy that they bring into their movies. And some of it's good. I think Civil War did a good job at having comedy in there, but not too much of it. To whereas some movies before it, I think, had a little bit too much. It, again, might be a fallout from Disney buying Marvel, and Disney's obviously a lot more kid-oriented, or at least wants kids to be able to watch their movies, except for Deadpool. But I think it takes away from the severity of some of the situations when the Avengers are cracking jokes while they're... Like, I think in the beginning of Age of Ultron, they're like sieging that base, and they're all cracking jokes about language, which, don't get me wrong, while you're watching, it's funny, but then when you take a step back and think about it, you're like, these guys are like, you know, putting their lives at risk, but they're like cracking jokes in the middle of it. You know what I mean? It just kind of, I don't know, it's a little too much.
It almost takes you out of the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... there's a balance there, and I think at times they go too far. They never get Transformers too far, where Transformers 2 was just like way, way, way too much humor, and it was just like forced.
It takes the edge off of what the story's about when you get too funny.
And DC might have gone the other way with like Man of Steel, and I think they tried to add a little bit back in, but
they still get blasted for being too serious. Yeah.
Exactly. You need your character who's the comic relief, and if that's Robert Downey Jr., that's great. But like Captain America shouldn't be cracking jokes. You know what I mean? Things
right?
Like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everybody has to be funny for whatever reason. It's like you got. Tony Stark is always that way. Spider-Man is always that way.
Exactly.
But like some of these other guys don't have to be that way. Like you don't have to have Bruce Banner telling knock-knock jokes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, not horrible. It doesn't ruin the movies. Nothing like that. But it definitely makes them a little bit more kiddish, knocks the edge off of it a little bit, like Hoagie said. So, with that, I'm going to go into my third point, which is probably the biggest. Maybe plot holes is the biggest, but
no Maria Hill shower scene.
Well, obviously, dude, but it's Disney. All right, come on, bro.
Let me some Colby Smulders.
There are too many times in the movies where they have to dumb down a hero's powers because of the other heroes he's with. For instance, the best example that I could find online, and that I do recall, and I'm sure you guys will, is at the beginning of Avengers, fucking what's her name, Black Widow, goes to get Hulk, and he does this whole thing about how he's got him under control. He spent years doing it. You fast forward to the helicarrier where he falls down a couple flights of stairs and loses control, even though he just spent all this time telling you that he gained control. Turns into the Hulk, destroys the ship, jumps out, ends up meeting the Avengers back in New York, and says the secret was he's in control, and like turns into the Hawk like instantly. It's like this. They do what they need to do for the scene without thinking about what they
very convenient kind of stuff.
It's very, very convenient. And then you go to Age of Ultron, and he did flip out because of the Scarlet Witch kind of put him under a spell, so you could give him that, but then he like leaves because he doesn't have control. But you just spent a whole movie telling us how you did have control. It's just this kind of, they do what they need to do for the story. And that's basically to set up, Thor Ragnarok now, that we found out. But, it's just things like that. They do too many things for the.
Does it make sense and back to the Avengers, did it make sense that Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America kind of fought to a draw? Or does that also seem like some things got dumbed down a bit? Or was it just that nobody was really trying to kill anybody, and it was just stopped? I just feel like at that point, I still feel like Thor's a demigod. I think Thor's more than capable of outlasting and beating both Iron Man and Captain America together, let alone one-on-one.
I would agree. I mean, I feel like that's why they didn't have him in Civil War, because him and Hawk in Civil War they just demolish people. So, Thor's a god. And Hawk is a hawk, like they said in the movie or whatever. But
Hawk is a hawk.
Yeah, we have a hawk or whatever. So yeah,
but then when he's not the Hulk, he's a person.
Yeah, and then the whole fight in New York. I mean, Thor's getting beat up just as much as Hawkeye, or as a matter of fact, less, because he was on top of a building. So again, I understand that you have to do it because you want these heroes in a movie together, and you can't have one just, being badass while the other
OP compared to the others.
Yeah. So, but it just.
To be fair, in Dawn of Justice, they kind of do that at the end, where it's like Wonder Woman's got the lasso around Doomsday, Superman's coming over there, and then Batman's like, "Hey guys, I just shot my gun."
Yeah, well, exactly. And then I feel bad for Batman, but that's why, like in the comics, in fights like that, like Batman's not like in there fighting. He's like strategizing or doing things like they play to his strengths in the comics. They don't have him there with a rocket launcher.
They don't make him look like a just a jabroni off to the side. Yeah.
And do you notice too that the two assassins in the Avengers, Hawkeye and Black Widow, always seem like they always get out of these with the I would say the most unscathed. Like they're the ones that probably take the least amount of damage. And I know that probably because they're not.
It's the armor he's wearing.
Age of Ultron, I don't think I ever see Jeremy Renner really get his ass handed to him other than when he fought Black Widow when he was under Loki's control. But other than that, he basically stays out of trouble.
Oh, yeah. And again, I think that's because they're human, so they know if, like, Hawkeye has to fight Thor, I mean, he's going to kill him. So, you know what another example is? I didn't write it down on here, but it kind of made sense was, you know, the whole premise of Tony building Ultron was he was devastated, like, he went up in that wormhole or whatever and, like, was so devastated or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, had that vision and all that kind of shit, whatever it was. And, or the premise of Iron Man 3, I should say, not Ultron. And the guy that wrote the article was like, don't you think he would have been more traumatized after Iron Man 1 when he was, like, almost got killed, had to tie, like, a battery to his chest because he was going to die and, like, was forced to build this robot. Like, that's more traumatizing than passing out in space. I mean,
no, I don't think so. I mean, everything he saw in Iron Man 1 is, you know, it's humans, it's terrorists. What he saw when he went through the wormhole was a gigantic spaceship full of Chitauri, otherworldly creatures.
Well, I mean, he saw that while he was fighting in New York. I mean, he saw these, you know, and he was fine. Like, the whole thing was that he went into outer space and saw it, but it's the same shit that he saw when he was fighting in New York and he didn't panic. Like, it was just, again, I feel like set up. It's what made sense to make the movie, so they went with it. And again, nothing crazy, so we are all like, oh, okay, that's fine. But just a lot of
we're
little
too busy
like
actually
that.
enjoying the movie.
Yeah. Again, this is all nitpicking. And for the record, again, I don't like Cam Newton. I don't remember what the second one was. But the third one is, I love all the Marvel movies. You
hate romantic stories with Superman and Wonder Woman.
Exactly. And the third one, I love Marvel movies, and that's even the ones people don't like Thor. I actually really liked Thor and Thor: The Dark World. So, and
that's fine for you to say because I would think that you're probably more of our resident DC guy, but yet you seem to be much more enjoying the Marvel universe at this point.
I mean, it's like they say all over Reddit and shit. I mean, competition's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like if Marvel's doing well, that forces DC to do well.
Tell it to Vince McMahon.
Exactly. Hence the brand split. So.
You know, controversy creates cash if you ask Eric Bischoff, so.
Hey. Amen. But anyway, those are my 3 topics.
Well, yeah, so that's about our show.
Well, see you guys later.
So, what do we got? We got, next week, we're done. We're done with the Marvel stuff, right? So,
no, we're just done in general. We're not doing this anymore.
We're done. We are completely done.
Kiser might lose his voice by next week. He might have to go through emergency tonsillectomy.
Yeah, I'll have to let you guys know how that all ends up going. Yeah. Don't forget, go subscribe to us. Reach out. Let us know, what your public pooping preferences are. And
your PPPs, if you will, your public
right, exactly. And next week we're going to go ahead and the NBA Finals are upon us. We're going to go ahead and review that. Meanwhile, we got Golden State up just small here at halftime, and the Cavs are 1 game away from making it. So it might be. We'll see where it goes. But from C-Town to Shaky Town, I am Josh Kiser. He is Josh Haddix, and he is Kyle Hoagland. We'll see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
pseudonerdpod.com. See ya.